Hey, Mr. McLaren here. What I wanted to do with this little tutorial was show you how to make the table and the graph look a little bit better when you make, and also how to make the graph using Google Sheets. Before we get started, each one of these times is kind of like with the Energy Skate Park. When you hit play here, this graph, when you pause it, you're looking at one point in time. So you've got a little bit of kinetic and a little bit of potential, unless you're at the very top or right at the very bottom, you're going to have a little bit of a mix of both. So these two is like you've got a little bit of potential and a little bit of kinetic. Unless you're at the very top, it's all potential, or if you're all the way at the bottom, it's going to be all kinetic. So basically they should add up to being the same total energy, because if you look here, the total is staying the same no matter what. It's just a matter of doing some simple um, subtraction or addition to find out what numbers are missing here. So once you fill that out, you're going to then want to also make this graph look a little bit nicer. So usually when we have titles like this, we'll bold them. So you can make this bold. You can also gray out the background. That's something that you see pretty commonly with the titles on a table. And then usually you make like a thick line across and thick lines down on the sides here. So if you want to do that, what you need to do is you go to borders. Seeing how we've got all of these highlighted, we can do the same border underneath all of them like that. And so that's a little bit thicker. And if you wanted to, you can actually make that line even thicker. So you can change the thickness of said line. Also, actually, I think I might want to make that just a little bit thicker, personally. Okay, so that actually is the thickest that I can get. I just did a quick Google search, and we can't get it to be quite thicker. I don't like how this is getting cut off, so I'm just gonna move that over a little bit because we want to be able to read joules. And then also, if I want this side to be thick, what we can do is we can highlight. Actually, I'm gonna do both of these at once and have the border be on the right side of the cells. So if we do borders right side, actually it only does that one at a time. Okay. Um, and this one right here as well. Right side, there we go. Oh, and those are actually thicker than the original ones, so I think we have to redo the border now that we've told it that we wanted them thicker. Okay, so like that. So now we've got a data table that looks a little bit more like a data table. If you wanted to, you could make this a little bit of a light gray color. Just kind of make it look a little bit different than the empty cells. So now I've got a table that looks a lot nicer, and you can, if you were ever needing to, you could copy paste that into a Google Doc just by highlighting it and copying and then pasting. So there's a couple things. If you wanted to make your own table, or sorry, graph, you can go up here and you can just hit chart. I think there's also insert chart. Either of those will work, and it will do its best to make a chart from the data that you've got on here. Unfortunately, right now, without highlighting anything, it's saying no data. So if we want to make a chart, we can highlight this, and we can say, okay, insert chart, and it will give us a chart. It's pretty good. It's missing those data points on the first half that you should have filled out. So you should have something that's filled out and not kind of spotty like we have right here. But some of the things that I notice when I'm looking at this chart is that it doesn't, it's kind of weird in some parts. Like the title, I mean, we could have a better title than that. We could call this energy of a swinging pendulum. We can change that title right there. The next thing that I really notice that's kind of weird is this y-axis isn't labeled. That really should be the energy. So what we can do is we can go to chart axis and axes and titles, and we can go to the vertical axis, and we can title that. So we can change that to energy. Nothing was there originally. So we've got energy there. We've got our key. We've got our X and Y labels. We've got our units. Actually, energy we should say is in joules. And it's looking pretty good. There's maybe one other thing I would do, and that would be the legend right here. It's pretty good up at the top. You can, if you want to, move it to the side, but that cramps our graph, so we don't really want that. Could have it on the bottom there. I actually like it how it did it automatically at the top there. That's pretty nice. So everything about that looks kind of nice. The title off being off by the side is kind of annoying me, so I'm curious if we can center that. Alignment, yes, we can center that. Okay. So now that looks a lot better. So we've got a chart that looks much nicer, and we can read it, and we can look at this, and we can try and find patterns of what's going on with the energies over time. All right, I'll see you in class.